The do-it-yourself, also LED build demo. It's pretty much a primer. Just run down the basics of building your own LED with stuff that's available now. Everything's pretty much set for you. You don't have to go and glue down diodes to your LEDs. So we're going to go through the whole thing. If you want more information, Jake Adams wrote a great LED primer in the fall Reefs magazine issue. So it's worth reading, going through.
Jake Adams and what magazine?
Reefs magazine.
The Reefs magazine.
There's a link also on it through Manhattan Reefs. Yeah. So.
Jake Adams.
We'll see. It's an LED.
Yeah.
And it runs through everything from basics on what each part really does, and the different types of LEDs, the 3-ups and all that stuff. So it's a really good read. So the first thing to go start building your LED is having the right tools, and that's pretty much your soldering gun, your wire strippers, screwdrivers, different ways to go connect the wiring and the LEDs to the heatsink, which is the most important thing is your connections and gluing it to your heatsink or screwing them down. So
you can glue them. You can glue them to the heatsink. It's up to you. You can glue them to the heatsink. You can screw them to the heatsink. If you glue them, it's very hard to remove them if you blow them up. So we prefer to screw them, and for that you need that stuff.
Usually a drill.
You need a drill, and you need the top and drill bit. The top and drill bit. When you drill a hole, you use that stuff to make a thread in the heatsink, and then you screw it very easily. You can also use the self-drill screws for that, but you have to be careful with that because you can screw them too hard, and then the whole it's gonna break. So it's better to use top drill and top metal, or glue them if you don't want to, because it takes a lot of time. To be honest with you, to do all those holes, to thread them, it takes a lot of time. So you can epoxy glue them too.
Epoxy is the best thing.
Epoxy is the best thing.
They have it, but it has to be high heat thermal.
Yeah,
Also
basically
thermal adhesive.
It's called thermal adhesive.
So it helps pull the heat out.
Yeah, it's high heat.
It's glue and adhesive.
Breaks down.
Glue and
Yeah.
thermal compound as well.
Yeah.
So
What are those in the bottom there, the red and blue?
so these are the bullet connectors, and
Yeah, I can show you. This is the easiest method. This is the easier method to connect two wires together. You just strike. I don't know, it's just a little bit of wire. You can tin them with the solder, or you're not gonna do it here. Just put this thing on all the way. Okay, use that thing. And there's color codes for every thickness of this, and you just clamp them, and that's all.
is that simple?
And that's simple.
So-
And it's the male. It's the male. You can do the same with the female. I'm not going to do it right now. It takes 30 seconds, and you're good.
And it's a great way to go and hook up your drivers over to your LED system and all that stuff. Then, in case something happens, you don't have to go cut wires or resolder. You just unplug them and change them out and swap whatever you
So
want.
that's the connection that goes to that.
Here.
Yeah. Now, between LEDs, you're going to want to go solder them. So
Yeah.
you're going to need the soldering gun and a rosin core solder, usually like 40 watt, 30 to 40 watt usually works. You don't want to, also a little bit of heat. You just want to touch it, melt it, and put the wire on there. So.
You don't want to leave the soldering iron on the LED too long because the metal contact when the star is actually connected to the LED itself, and you can burn out the LED.
So don't use any other soldering iron like less than 40 watts, because it's
More than 40 watts or less?
you have to
You
use
don't-
more
you don't
than
wanna
40
go-
watts. More than 40 watts.
30, 40 and higher, you want to use it just so you touch it. Otherwise, you're keeping the soldering gun on the LED too long, and it heats
just
up
a
and
quick
it'll
tap.
just burn it out.
It's just quicker because the solder is not really
Adjustable to the best.
I use the Home Depot, but the higher priced one. It's 60 watts and it works wonders.
With the low wattage, it might take a while to heat up, and if you touch anything, it might transfer all the heat right away. then you gotta wait for it to warm up. It's much easier when you have a high-powered one. Quick tap to the solder itself.
Send me an
Melts
electrical system.
instant.
Exactly.
Yeah, no good.
So there's no plan. And then, so yeah, the tools, that's what is the most important thing before you start. And then you start building up your whole list of things that you need, which is your heat sink, also your fans to go cool the LEDs, which is important. We'll go over that later on. The LED driver, we have two here. That's what actually drives your LEDs. It takes the current in, and it transfers it into something that's usable for the LEDs in the proper currents and frequency that you need for. Here's the small buck puck. It already has a small dimming module onto it. And yeah, this will drive anywhere from 4 to 6 LEDs around there.
Down to one.
Yeah, down to 1 if you wire it the right way. So, you know, it's good. This is your basic starting point. After that, you're going to be picking up your LEDs of choice. There's a bunch out there on the market. We're going to be going over Crees and Luxions and stuff like that. Already pre-mounted. We're not going to be doing with anything where you're gluing your own diodes. It's a big mess. You don't have to. You can buy them on Stars. It's easy. It's simple. Some kind of power switch or dimmer. That's the next important thing. These come with the dimmer already built in, so that'll work. It's an analog dimmer. They have things that go a little more crazy. You know, you get the digital. You can program out different color codes onto it. It gets pretty intense pretty quickly, and a lot of cut wires. You know, that's the next thing. Because as you see, with each LED has to be wired, so each one has to be pre-cut, pre-tinned with solder on the tips, and then just to make it install easy. So that's mainly the stuff that you're going to be expecting. And then lastly is once you get your fixture set and you know what you're going to be covering, you're going to be going over lenses, which is going to actually spread your light. You might not need them, but you might need them to go in and do things. So there's a different range of them. There's they go all from 40 degree to 80 degree. You know, so yeah, there's a lot of choices and things that go along with it. The LED types we have. This is the Cree line of things that you would be buying. It starts off with Cree, also XRE, and then it moves over to the XPG and the MCE. These are the ones that came out about a year ago. They're 1,000 mA, also milliamps max. They run about 107 lumens on like mid setting, which is, you know, it's good. It's perfect to light up. Most of the fixtures that we have are with the XRE also LEDs. They're perfect. They already have a pre-lens on it that's going to give you 100% spread, a little bit more. So yeah, so that's the first thing. The XPGs came out.
It's 100% spread.
Yeah, it's 100% spread actually.
It's 100 angle. The angle of light is 100.
Yeah,
and if you want to go narrower, you use the lenses.
Yeah, so that's pretty much where it goes. The lens is great because it gives you a bigger spread than the XPGs or MCEs.
You don't use a reflector, you just have to shoot straight down.
No, it's actually it flips.
You also lose this angle. Yes.
Yeah.
If you use the 40 degrees, that's the narrow one, and it's gonna do a spotlight.
We'll go over the lenses later on also, so it's gonna be a little bit into it. But yeah, they get better. They get better power. These are 30% more effective. They're a little bit brighter, and they're a better color temperature range. The problems you're going to have is that a lot of the LEDs are just not usable reef color ranges. They're either like a 2K or they're super high. You know, so yeah, these are the pretty much the, you know, it's the cool white line from Cree. The MCE, the only one that we can use from the MCE for reef lighting is the cool white. Everything else it's not usable by Coral. Not as much as the cool white.
So which
And
is better of the three?
the better one right now is if you're going to be going whites, you're going to want to go with the MCE, which is it's a super high lumen rating. They also use up more power, but also they're running at a lower milliamp.
Is that like similar to a 55K?
It's
500?
that's more like that's more like your 7.5K range of the actinics. You're going to be going with the XREs. Yeah, so you'd be going also on separate strings. You'd be going the XREs for the royal blues, which is your actinic, and then you'd be going the MCEs or the XPGs for the whites. It's a better.
Could you replace?
That's the favorite LEDs.
Could you replace several XRE whites with like one MCE white? The lumens? Or?
It's usually it's still 1-to-1. You want to go and just keep that high ratio because even going LEDs, it's not as powerful as the metal halides. You're using just as many. People say you can go use less, but if you're going to be building a LED fixture, you're going to want to go the most light you can get a dimmer and control it that way. That way, if you need more light, you have it. So it pretty much runs into that whole thing. And you know, and also there's other similar quality LEDs. There's a lot of you know, Luxion makes them. There's a bunch of other ones that are already pre-mounted. They look just like the Crees. They work just almost the same. Different, you know, the color ranges are a little bit different, but you know, Crees are usually what you go for. It's the best. They're the most advanced in the whole thing. And then you have the Chinese knockoffs. They're like $1 a piece, and it's something that burns out. In 3 months, you're going to have 2 or 3 LEDs that are going to go out. So you know, it's in the long run, Crees are the ones you're going to get, or the Luxions or the Philips.
So the ones on the left are the white, and the ones on the right are the clear blues?
Yeah, these are going to be, well, these are whites. These are whites, and they have greens and reds. Right now.
There's a
Blues are very hard to find, and then these are the ones that have the full color range. So you're going to get your whites. You're going to get 3 or 4 different types of whites. You're going to have your royal blues. You're going to have your regular blues. You're going to have the reds and greens. So these are pretty much what everybody's going to be picking up. And then if you want more intense whites, you're going to be going with the MCEs or the XPGs. These are just, they're more efficient. So if you could swap them out, I would get these with whites and these with all the blues, and just build your picture that way.